Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, regardless of where you are in the world, what's going on. My name is TAETRO. Welcome back to another episode of TAETRO Talks. And hopefully everything is running smoothly. Had a stream this morning, had a couple technical issues, but not today, not for TAETRO Talks. I'm so stoked to be here. For those of you who don't know, we do TAETRO Talks every Thursday. It's presented by 343 TV, which is, a creation of 343 Labs, an electronic music school. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But usually this show, we do one of two things. We do interviews. So if you missed the interview last week, it was with Rachel K. Collier, who was really amazing. It's a great interview. If you missed it, you should check it out. You can, of course, watch the rebroadcast. And then we've interviewed people like Gnarly Beats. That was another inspiring interview. I'm actually putting these interviews up in a podcast feed as well. So if you look up TAETRO Radio on your favorite podcasting platform, you can take a lot of the content from TAETRO Talks with you on the go if you don't want to sit there and watch like a whole long YouTube video. I'm so stoked to be here today because instead of doing an interview show today, we are actually going to be doing a call-in show. So if you don't know, I actually do a call-in show on Mondays every week, but we like to take this opportunity for TAETRO Talks to do a call-in show where if you've got Zoom or on your phone or on your computer, you can call into the show, ask your creative questions around being a home studio music producer, a creative, stuff around motivation, creativity, just general questions that you have and that are building up inside you. And I'm dropping that Zoom link in the chat right now. So if you are interested in joining and calling into the show, I'm dropping that link in both chats. I'm monitoring both on 343 TV and on my channel. Call in with your questions. Call in just to chat. And you will be put into a waiting room. Don't worry, you're not going to be right on air as soon as you click the link or anything. I'll bring you in and I'll let you know when you are on stream. I see Chroma Beats and DJ Tony Islands over in the 343 chat. Welcome. Happy to have you. And then if I jump over to my chat here, I see our Itoro Dog. What's going on? Saharsh, what's up? Fusion Maker, nice to see you. Day and Night Beats. Carlos Pinedo, what's up? Carlos caught both streams today. That's what I know. Buck 88 Keys, what's going on? Percuman, nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Rev Sabes, what's going on, my friend? Curly Soul, Samuel Messiah is here. Gabu is here. What is up? Gabriel Mendoza. Noah, hello. Nice to see you. Welcome. Aaron is here. Great. Happy to have you. Charles Nuzel. Sky Silver. Sky Silver is studying. Is that what I read? Good. Oh, doing your homework. Nice. Keep doing that homework, my friend. Onish, what is going on? Guavar Kumar, what's going on? Love and Beats. Rashane is here. Rashane also catching both streams today. Love it. And Tim, what's up? I think I skipped people. Macathero, hello. Oh, I think I already said that. And Bipradip, that's a fun name. Federico, Mahir. All right, I think I caught up. And Jonathan Rodriguez, what's up? So stoked for y'all to be here today. I'm happy to guide this conversation in whatever way is most helpful to you in the community. So, hey, what's up, Sid B? Howdy. So, if you are joining and you're calling in, great. If you want to ask a question in the chat, that is also welcome as well. Before we take the calls, we're about to jump right into the calls. I would like to take a minute to thank 343 TV for making this stream happen and making streams happen every single day. So if you go to youtube.com/343labs, you can catch 343 TV live every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern. Different show every day. We've got an Ableton show on Mondays, a techno show on Tuesdays, a Logic show on Wednesdays, Music Theory with Max Wild on Thursdays, and TAETRO Talks, as well as some hardware stuff on Fridays, and feedback sessions. Feedback sessions on Saturdays. Don't sleep on that. You can submit your music, and Atropolis, who is an amazing Ableton performer, world music producer, Ableton Certified Trainer, he is doing feedback sessions every Saturday. So you can bring your tracks, he will critique them, and it's really, really thoughtful, really powerful feedback for you. So that's every single day, Monday through Saturday on youtube.com/343labs. And then if you like working with a lot of those instructors, they're all teachers at the school, 343 Labs. So check out 343labs.com if you want to actually take a course in one of those areas. But without further ado, perhaps we should take some calls. Chroma Beats, don't worry about the delay because you'll mute the stream. And this is for everybody who's calling in. What you need to do is mute the stream. And when I take your call, and you'll hear me in real time, but the stream will be a little bit behind. The first call I'm actually going to take is Silk Beats, DNS Studios, apparently, in the YouTube chat. So we're going to get you in here. We're going to take some calls, and let's see what everybody wants to chat about today. I'm trying a new tea today, guys. It's a little different than what I'm used to. Oh, I think we got shy. We got shy, Silk Beats. What happened? Disappeared. Please don't spam the chat with all caps. Rashane, let's get you in here. We lost one caller, but that link is going to be live. So if y'all just joined the chat, you can use that link at any time. Here comes Rashane. Of course, you can ask questions in the chat. Absolutely. We're connecting to audio, Rashane, and then you just got to unmute, and then we're good to go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's up?
Okay.
How are you today?
Great. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Remind everybody where you're calling in from.
Yeah, I'm Rashane. I'm in New York. Yeah.
Great. What's your question today?
So it's regarding, I guess, a little bit about arrangement. I've been focusing on doing that more since I fall into that trap of not finishing things. So I was just like curious, like what is your approach, or when do you feel like it's time to start arranging? Like, do you make sure you have like certain drum elements you need, or like you feel like you have one or two melodies and then it's time to kind of flush out and then see if you need to add more things?
Totally. So like I get myself to a point where I have too many layers almost, like a point where it's just so much happening all at once. And that is the point where usually I start arranging. Like the stream this morning, like once I got to a certain point, I had so many musical ideas happening. That's when I kind of knew, okay, now it's time to arrange. I've done all I can here, because you could like infinitely come up with new musical ideas, and it'll just sound messier and messier and messier. But when you start to realize, okay, if I take some things away and play these loops in a certain combination, it sounds really good. That's actually, when you start thinking like that, you're already arranging in your head. You're already thinking like, okay, this is kind of like a verse, but then this combination is like a hook. So that's when I jump from having my loops in session view into arrangement view. And also it's just the discipline of building up the discipline to every time you do a session and you sit down with some loops, you jump over to arrangement view before you close the project, before you call it done for the day or done with that project or move on to something new. Just take a shot at arranging it, because then even if you don't have everything you need, you probably will find what those gaps are and find what you need in the arrangement process. Like, oh, I really wish a new drum part came in here. Even if you didn't create it already in session view, you can still end up creating it in arrangement view.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and
That makes sense.
yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in, in session view, you're building your musical ideas, and then arrangement, you're just arranging those musical ideas. But oftentimes, I end up with a really great A section while I'm making loops in session view, and once I start arranging, I'm left with, no B section, no real diversity in my arrangement. So I actually sometimes end up crafting entire new sections within the arrangement view because I didn't know I needed them until I started putting that arrangement together.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely fallen into that trap. Or I feel like sometimes I make an A and B section in the session view, but then they don't blend together when I like go to arrangement view.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be helped with just simple things like how are you transitioning between those two sections? Because it can feel like a stark contrast to, jump from an A section to a B section. Should there be maybe a buffer in between them where some of the elements start to crossfade, or is there a common element that you can actually, because they don't have to be completely different. You can carry a common element over a melody or a certain sound or certain drum groove over from the A section to the B section. They don't have to be starkly different. And a lot of times either carrying over an element or working on the transition, either creating some kind of buffer 4 bars in between that sets up a new section so that the listener isn't like, oh wow, now it's something different, like it's jarring, or things like risers and effects. Those really help because it's all about anticipation. You want to keep the listener interested, so you want to keep exposing them to new sounds and changing your piece as time goes on. But you also need to give them some type of anticipation or signal, tension and release. If you build up some tension and the release of that is you're landing on a new section, the listener has anticipated that working up to it. So it's expected and it doesn't feel jarring, and it does a lot to glue together 2 separate sections that maybe are contrasting each other, as they should, an A section and a B section, but prep your listener for it.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, that's great advice. I'm gonna try that. Yeah, that's like my theme of the month is just to try to finish more stuff than I just start.
Yeah, for sure. Arrangement. I mean, I had a call earlier on Monday where one of the kids was talking about how he just sat down and did a bunch of arranging all in one day. So like if you do have a bunch of those projects that are all just sitting in loops, and you can kind of switch your brain into a different mode and just have a day where you're just arranging, you're not coming up with, new projects at all. You're just going to sit down and arrange some projects. I think that's actually a really helpful workflow too, because you limit yourself. You don't have any other option.
That's true. Yeah, I'll try that as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for calling in, Rashane.
Yeah, no problem. Later.
Appreciate it. Peace. Yes, arrangement. Arrangement is a very big topic. Yes, I'm referencing Samuel Messiah's call. It's true. Somebody was pointing out my keyboard. I can't keep up with this text chat, guys. I see you got your MPK Mini Mark III there. What makes a Mark II 3 update worth the upgrade to you? Good question from Thomas in the chat. Big upgrades on the key bed. I have a whole video on this on my channel, so y'all can go watch it. 20-minute long overview features video. Improved key bed. This is a completely different key bed than the original Mark II. Feels a lot better. These are proper MPC pads. No sacrifice there. These are the same exact pads that are on like the MPC One, MPC Live, all that. Endless encoders. They just keep spinning. No stop and end points. Very, very convenient. And a screen, which is a very big surprise, which is very, very cool. That enough. That is plenty to say, hey, maybe it's time to upgrade. Though, if you just got a Mark II version and you're happy with it, you can still make great things. You don't have to have the latest and greatest controllers for everything. Hey, my mom's in the chat. Check it out. Chroma Beats, if you want to try calling in, we can see if we can work through some technical issues. I'll drop that link again in the chat for those of you who want to call in. Francisco, what's up? Greetings from California to Denver. How do I get into Ask Questions? Project Open Sandbox. I just dropped a Zoom link. And then, boom. I'm trying to keep up with the text chat here, but I think I'll try to scroll back up, and then I will grab a call while we wait. Aaron is coming on the air. This is Aaron's first call. What's up? How's it going, my friend?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Thank you so much for calling in. Is this your first call in, right? But I see you a lot in the chat.
Yeah, this is my first time calling in.
Fantastic.
True. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing so. Where are you calling in from?
South Florida, man.
Awesome. Well, I hope you're staying safe. I know things are a little crazy out there.
Yeah, I'm actually out there on the front line, so to speak. I'm a nurse too, you know?
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for the service that you're providing to your community, putting yourself at risk to keep everybody else safe.
Yeah, but the life struggle remains the same. It's always to be a better musician and a better producer. I have like an extensive history in kind of like the industry and stuff. Like I was doing producing
Nice.
before it became digital. You know, back in the day when you had to use like, you know, actual workstations,
Right. Full
and
desks.
and Mackies and stuff like that. But I actually have a list of questions because you know, I'm primarily a guitar player.
Cool. Let's get into it.
Yes. Stand by. I wrote down a couple of questions.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Prepared.
All right, I'm going off the top of my head because I can't find my slip. I can't see it.
That's cool.
But so I saw like a video that you were at like the Rolly House, like probably like a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like
That was NAMM a
and
couple years ago. Yeah.
you were talking to the dude about I got it. All right. So you're talking to the dude about like live looping, which is really interesting because I've been watching a lot of like Mark Rubier stuff lately, which is hilarious and it's just beautiful.
Yes.
He was under the impression that like the kind of like the best method in Ableton was to use like looper. But you had mentioned something, and I'm sure you could just refer to the video to get like a clear explanation because you did kind of like explain it pretty well, but I just can't remember. Something about like the overdub is a better method because then you have clips, like the audio drops into clips.
Exactly.
Like MIDI clips. That way you can like you can alter the MIDI clips, whereas in like looper it's kind of stuck.
Yeah, so let me dive into that for set people up who don't quite understand. So the stuff that Aaron's talking about is this video that I did a couple years ago with Ruben Dax, who works for Rolly. He's also a really fantastic artist, really fantastic looper musician in general. But we were talking about looping in music, and anybody who's interested in looping and performance and things like that. I mean, looping is a big part of my workflow, and then I also employ it in doing performances as well. So the question always becomes, well, Ableton Live has a built-in looper. It's an audio effect. It's called looper, and it works like a traditional looping pedal, which is what most people are used to, especially guitar players who loop like you, Aaron. Like a lot of guitar players are very used to this method of looping where you punch in and you punch out. You step on the pedal when you start the loop, and immediately when the loop is done, you punch out. You step on the pedal again. And then the process becomes you can overdub on top of that and create like two layers. With Ableton Live's looper, and then with that method, it's not a multi-track looper. It's a single track looper that you throw onto an audio track. And the limitation of that means that once you overdub a layer on top of it, you can really only go back a couple steps because you can only undo what you layered on top of it, right? So you don't have as much freedom. My whole argument for looping with Ableton Live is Ableton Live's session view is one big looper. So you have your clip view, you have clips. Each one of those clips holds a separate loop. The only difference being you don't control the timing of your loop, your track, with your stomp box or with a punch in and punch out like you do with looper. So looper actually helps you set your own tempo. But for me, it's more convenient to just use Live's traditional session view because you're set to a certain tempo, you're set to a certain grid, and then the problem of overdubbing, which we talked about before, if you set up multiple tracks, where you can actually create layers of overdubbing. So say you play chords on your guitar, then a lead on your guitar, then a bass line on your guitar. Now those are all three in separate tracks. And you can mute those, you can stop them, you can bring them back in. You have access to all the layers individually. You can process them differently, which you can't do with the traditional looper. And that's all very, very convenient. So it always kind of confused me. I think that there are some instances where a looper makes more sense, but I think for most people that want to make looping performances, Ableton Live's session view is in itself one of the greatest looping machines there is. You know, you don't need anything additional for that.
Something really great to experiment with as usual.
Totally.
With all these features and stuff. So I don't know how much time you have. Can I ask you a couple more questions?
Let's keep going. We're here for at least an hour.
Awesome. So I've been watching a lot of Ned Rush lately. He's like one of those freak geniuses who can just like do a whole bunch of stuff. He's got to have ADD because he does stuff so fast. But the
Yeah.
things that he produces, so I don't know if his thing is like he just tries to emulate other artists, like kind of, sound design, but sound design and by emulation. And so he uses Operator. I noticed,
which, by the way, I want to not to interrupt, but which, by the way, what you just said, Aaron, is like emulating somebody else's sound. Great way to learn. Great way to learn sound design. Be like, I hear that sound. How do I make that sound? So I just want to put that out there for all the folks. Yeah.
About just trying, right? Yeah, just it's we all exist like kind of like a big team, and we're all inspiring each other. So
for sure,
I mean, and it's done in good faith. He says it on his channel and stuff, and he's just having fun.
Yeah,
really. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And he really is having fun, like you could tell. So he designs these sounds. And there's another guy, I forget his name, Seed to Stage, who actually refers to Ned Rush. And that dude is really smart. He explains a lot. And these are all YouTubers that like everybody who's listening can like check out also. Cause like, I mean, I'm just like so obsessed with it lately. I've been messing with Ableton for like almost a few years, I guess now.
Nice.
And I still don't have, like even the lightest version. I still use the free version. And the problem is like my last computer completely like died. I've never had a computer die quite like that.
Yep.
And so I bought the newest MacBook Pro, which I'm so happy and proud to have.
Amazing.
Except for one problem. It doesn't support all my drivers for like my MPC Studio.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Dude, that's
rough.
And that used to make my workflow so smooth, and my heart broke. So I've been searching, and lo and behold, I kind of found you, and there you are showing me the Novation made for Ableton. And I'm just like, that's what I need in my life, because I want to be honest and get a little bit real for a second. I'm an addict, and I used to produce some really creative ideas under that kind of paradigm with the MPC, and things would just kind of like pop, the sound would work. And I'd make these tracks. I have a SoundCloud. A little bit embarrassed because a lot of it is like incoherent, just ideas.
That's okay. And, sometimes that's the outlet you need. That's the expression you need.
So I've been struggling, like being clean and stuff like that for some time now, like a couple of years, and with producing. And so I'm just looking for that, portal to allow me to be creative once again. And it's not easy. And a lot of people struggle with that. And so I just ordered the Novation Launch Key 25, like the full key version, because I want that quantized. I just want that. It
all that workflow functionality. Fun. Yeah, you're gonna be super stoked with it, especially if you're into the live looping stuff. Like you made the right choice. You made a very good choice for yourself, for sure.
And I got 10% off because Guitar Center ended up like canceling my order. I called them back, and they're like, "Oh, it was back ordered or something." And then I was like, "Well, that's kind of upsetting since I ordered it like 2 weeks ago." And so they gave me 10% off. So I got 10% off on like a brand new product.
Totally.
And they gave me a date too, which there was no guaranteed, date before. So I should have it on the 15th. But anyways. So the Operator, do you recommend? I don't have a lot of experience. Like I said, I don't have like the later versions, and I'm not even sure if I have Operator in the free version of Ableton.
I'm sure you do. I'm almost 99% positive you will have an Operator. I think that comes with all the versions of Ableton.
That's crazy, because the things that he does with like feedback and just it's a synthesizer where you design sounds.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people think, the stock Ableton sounds like, oh, I need all these plugins, I need all these other synths, I need whatever. And sure, certain synths have certain, qualities, and it's easier to do certain things. But, a few weeks back, it actually might have been a couple months ago now, I had John Selway on, who's one of the instructors at 343 Labs. He's an amazing like techno legend, but also just sound design Jedi, right? And
Yeah.
he can take any of these synths in Ableton Live, any of these stock synths, whether it's operator or corpus or tension, and he
create anything.
Yeah, and he can create anything, and that's the thing. Like
Awesome.
that, there are so many possibilities with these synths if you know the world, if you really, really understand what's behind those synthesizers, and what all those controls do, and how their interfaces are different, but they kind of, you can accomplish the same but different things sometimes. So if you're working with like a stock Ableton, even if it's with like a, you know, an older version, the possibilities are almost endless if you really want to do a deep dive into operator and do your own sound design. And if you can get lost in that world too. I mean, we talked about expression and an outlet, and at some point, you know, synthesis becomes a type of meditation, you know?
Yes, because I'm trying to figure out, like, if I have not, okay, so some people have issues trying to come up with concepts, like just ideas for music. And
Right.
for those who have those issues, I recommend watching like Mark Rubier, because you understand all you need is like a simple idea. Like the dude drops a mic on a table and starts with that. You know what I'm saying?
It's
like,
one of the major things that I think people get caught up in. And I did a post on Instagram right before we went live here from a previous Mentor Monday, where I was talking about the idea of we're not coming up with new things. Like we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not inventing electricity here. We're creating music where every chord progression has been played, every melody that's possible lives on a hard drive, you know? So get that out of your head and just realize that it's the combination of ideas that you come up with and the diversity in that collection of ideas that makes something new. It's not inventing all the ingredients, it's putting the ingredients together to make something that is truly your own. So it's the simple idea. Yeah, it's the simple ideas. And if you watch any of my streams or any of my beat making stuff or whatever, you're not seeing me spend, you know, endless hours or like 10 to 20 minutes on a specific sound or a specific idea. I'm going off of almost like instinct. I kind of like, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I really think of it as using the Force, you know, like
that's awesome.
I'm just going with what's naturally coming out of me and not trying to second guess too much. Of course, I'm doing it to taste and asking myself, do I like this? But it's also like just acting on instinct and not questioning yourself too much, and just that's a snowball effect and momentum as you start to add layers. So people need to not get too caught up in like, is this idea super original? Is this exactly what I want? Maybe it's not exactly what you want right now, but I find often when I get to the end of these beats that while I'm making them, I'm like not so hot on them. The end product I'm super stoked on. So
like Fight Night. I noticed
right,
you make that, man, and you were like, and then I noticed like a day later, we're all like so stoked at the end of it. We're all just like vibing on it, and then like the next couple days, you're like, guys, check this out. It's sick.
Yeah,
it was sick.
And that's the perfect example of like, I could have abandoned that track. I could have basically abandoned it and wasted all that time.
Kombat, man. I love everything like that. It's so cool.
For sure.
But, so yeah, and another thing for like inspiration, just to kind of bounce off like the motivation aspect, is like, you know, a lot of people think that if I try to copy somebody else, it's like I'm bringing my ethics and it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? But think about it.
Of course not.
Like, you're not. I mean, Ned Rush gets pretty close, but for the majority of us, even if you try to emulate somebody, and you said this in another stream, like there was like, you can listen to like a few different artists that you're inspired by.
Absolutely.
And take different elements from them, but that's like really kind of complicated. It's like that's like a complex thought process. Well, but if you just try to pick something that you like a song, like I like Mars Volta.
Yeah,
some people have heard of them. They're highly complex and they use a whole bunch of crazy sounds, and it's a lot of analog stuff.
Yep.
But just as an example, if I heard like a small snippet of that song, I was like, I want a part of that in my production.
Of course.
And you try to attempt that, 9 times out of 10, if you're like me, it's not going to come out anything like what you heard. But it's like,
It's just that you were
it
down
helps
on
you
that
along.
path. Exactly.
Right,
Like
it
you
helps
went
you
down on that
along.
path to create something original, being inspired and influenced by something else. And that's what it's
So no
all
one's gonna
about.
get mad at you. You know, no one's gonna get
Exactly.
mad.
Unless you're trying to rip
But
somebody's music off, trying to pass it off as your
yeah,
own, which none of us are doing. We're all just trying to learn
it's
from each
weak,
other.
right? Nobody does that.
And we're
Nobody cares that.
and we also have sounds that we love, and we say, I love this sound, I want to sound like this. And at a certain point, that's okay. Max Wild in the chat says, good artists borrow, great artists steal. And that's 100% correct.
So, operator, I'm highly motivated to like not just come up with my own musical ideas, because like that for me, like you were saying the other day, you know, you got your creativity and then you got like your production ability, and you got to kind of like struggle with like balancing the two.
Totally.
For me, creating music and stuff, I don't have a problem with. It's just learning the vastness of what I can do with what I know.
Of course.
So having operator and being kind of passionate about like just kind of thinking like I want anything from a kick to like anything from percussion to like straight up synth sounds, like just thinking about what you want instead of having to like buy a pack or something, you know, maybe just learn how to use operator and take the time to like actually learn it. And then like I feel like that would be like a huge boost to your production, like at least like 30% at least, you know what I'm saying? Like I would actually think like
Totally.
more, but I'm being more conservative because, you know, it's just one element, you know what I mean, in a production.
Yeah,
so.
and I'll say this one last thing, and then I got to jump because I got some other people waiting on calls, but this is a great call for sure. I'll just say, especially what you kind of described is a thing that happens to a lot of us when our ideas don't match up with our skill set, and that can balance either way, right? We can have really big ideas that our skill set can't get to, or we can have, you know, much simpler ideas and our skill set evolves past it. And especially if you are in that mode of you have so many ideas but you don't quite have the skill set to execute them, focusing on a specific synth like operator is a great way to just channel your energy and build that skill set, because you're focused. You're not trying to do a million things at the same time. You're really focused on how to use that synth, how to do that sound design, how to create something very specific. So I think that you're on a great path. And when you get that launch key, you got to fill us all in because we want to know how it's going to go.
Oh, for sure. That's the next step, is getting myself out there. Like I really want to try to do something. And I noticed you were using the Apple, what is it, for Final Cut Pro.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I couldn't find the student thing. My school isn't hooked up with Apple apparently, so
well, it's wrapped in a bundle. Look for the education bundle or something. It comes with a few different things.
That is like half the price, so that's good enough.
Yeah, you should definitely get that because it comes with a bunch of different things. I love using Final Cut, even if you want to experiment with iMovie, like you have your MacBook. So it's got iMovie on it. That's how I started this channel. I actually started with iMovie on an iPad. So if you wanted to start, it's a good way because graduating from iMovie to Final Cut Pro is very, very natural.
But use a camera. Get a camera.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used my Galaxy Note 4. I used a really crappy Android phone to start this channel. So use what you have.
Okay. Thank you for the inspiration and the motivation. I continue to tune in. It's awesome. It's good times.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing your story with us.
Be well.
You too. Let's keep it moving with the calls, guys. I'm super stoked. I appreciate you all tuning in. If you haven't yet, right click, open in a new tab, 343labs.com. Tell me what course you think looks the coolest. Just tell me. You don't got to sign up for it or nothing. We're going to bring on Plasma Chasm. How's it going, my friend? Can you hear me?
Hello, mate. Yes, yeah.
Hi, welcome to the stream.
I'm calling from the UK, man. So it's a little.
It's a little late.
Hello, how are you doing, man? All right.
All right, you can hear me now. Make sure you mute the stream, by the way, because the stream will be delayed.
Sorry, yeah, I moved the stream. Sorry, my mistake.
You'll hear two of me. Nobody wants that.
Okay, that's a bit better, man.
There we go. Cool. Welcome. You're calling in from the UK, you said.
Yeah, I'm calling from Wales, man.
Awesome.
Half of people don't know that there's a country in the UK called Wales, so I'll forgive anyone if they don't know. But yeah, I've tuned in a couple of times, man. Really invaluable tips, and I can see, you're massively inspirational, man.
Thank you so much.
Mastered the field, but obviously there's always more to learn.
Always, yeah.
And the biggest aspect of what's attracted me to sort of follow you and taken a lot of your advice is the looping aspect of what you do.
Cool, good to know. You're the second person who's called and talked about looping today, so it's interesting because I don't think I've made a real looping video in a while, like a proper loop setup or like any instructional stuff on looping in a while, but I know I have a couple of videos that are pretty popular, so it's interesting to know because maybe I need to do more looping content.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's people like yourself, Mark Ribere, who was mentioned earlier.
For sure.
I think his name is becoming, he's becoming massive, just because he shows what can be done, and how you can just get literally like entire sets.
Yeah. Raw, unfiltered, like just it's like coming from his core. That's the thing. That's the most appealing of it.
Absolutely. The last chap you spoke to did touch on it as well. So basically, the way that I do things at the moment is, so with looping, it's basically, it gives you access to essentially an entire band, an entire orchestra, choirs,
absolutely,
as one person.
It's like a superpower.
It is absolutely a superpower, and I like to create things. I love playing with other people and jamming around, but when it comes to the sort of the ideas I've got in my head, I'm very much like I feel like sometimes only I can bring them to life.
Totally.
And I think a lot of people get that. So looping with just basically I've got just a couple of small MIDI keyboards and I just have it plugged into Cubase on my laptop. And I just experiment and see what I can come up with. So what I do at the moment is I basically just have X amount of tracks set up in Cubase ready to go. So say I'm using like 8 or 9 different plugins and VSTs, I'll have 8 or 9 tracks all set up. The amount of effects and modulation that I have at various sections of those different tracks through the songs kind of makes it impossible for me to add those effects in live while I'm playing and switching between tracks, if you see what I mean. So I've got like filters are changing, there's different reverbs and echoes coming in and out. So all those are preset on each track.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So are you talking about over time? Things are changing over time and it's kind of hard to loop and automate that?
Yeah, that's it, mate. So between like bars, whatever, 16 and 24, the filter will alter dramatically on track 1.
Totally.
But I'll actually be playing on track 3 doing something with a different instrument. So it's literally physically impossible for me to kind of do all these things for the songs that I'm doing.
Right. And how are you handling it now? Are you just not able to do it how you want? Are you kind of sacrificing or are you automating the effects?
Yeah, so they're all automated there.
Yeah.
Now I'm fine with that because I don't think there's a physical way around that without literally having like 10 hands, and I don't think people care as long as the sound, you're achieving the sound you want. However, Cubase doesn't have a built-in looping feature function, or anything like what you were talking about with that looper. I think it was just called Looper. Is it for Ableton?
Well, in Ableton Live, it's an audio effect called Looper that kind of automatically that basically just emulates a typical looping pedal. So how are you looping with Cubase?
I'm basically completely cheating. So I'll actually have the samples that I want to play. I'll have them set up in the DAW. But before any of those kick in, I'll actually play that loop myself live.
And then they just start playing right after.
And then as the essentially the timeline plays, it'll hit that section at the right time. Now, again, I don't really have a problem with that because I know I can play those sections.
Right.
But I wish there was a feature for me to actually play it live. And that I wasn't having to set all those up. And do you see what I mean? So
Of course.
there's one thing, now you may know the answer to this immediately, but there's one awesome woman called Bobby Caldwell that I've been sort of checking out. She did a Foo Fighters mashup, basically live looping various instruments. It's absolutely amazing. It's got she's hit like 15 million odd views. It's blown out.
Wow.
But she's in this little studio, and for this video, she basically walks from instrument to instrument in loop sections, and it obviously all builds up and creates the song. But now everyone is loving it, but there was a load of people going, oh well, she's not actually looping it, she's not doing any of the functions herself, it's obviously someone else controlling it. Turns out that's not even true. Actually, apparently what she was doing is that, so this is literally, I'm just reading this from her response to these comments, is that it was live looping triggered through Ableton Live using the internal IAC driver. Yeah. And I looked into that a little bit, and apparently it's an IAC MIDI driver. That is something which can achieve this. So basically, you will set it to record on a certain track between certain bars, and it'll do that automatically without you having to do any input, and then it'll replay it when you say replay that section in certain bars.
That's super complicated, and I don't know. Have you used Ableton Live at all?
I have been basically using Cubase for so long now, 10 plus years. I'd love to stay within that environment.
Of course.
I haven't used anything else, basically.
I truly, truly believe that if you are very, very interested in doing this kind of looping performance, because even what you just described to me from that performance sounds slightly complicated, but not too complicated. Because what you're talking about doing is very, very achievable in Ableton Live. Like, it's basically built for that. I mean, that's why it's called Live, right? And I know
yeah, sure, okay.
It takes so much to switch from a different platform, of course. And it is going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but it might be a thing where just trying to stay in Cubase is causing a little bit too much friction, because if Cubase isn't built for that, like there are a couple DAWs that are just not built for live performance. Your only real other option, if you really wanted to stick to Cubase, in my mind, would be to get some type of looping pedal. But I don't think that that's a perfect solution either for all the things that you said before.
Yeah, again, I'd rather stay with the kit. Like
yes, of course.
Literally, how you just explained it, I'm confident it can be done with just the setup I've got, and keep it simple, and then I can just concentrate on the actual music and the flow of it.
Yeah,
and
there's
yes, go on.
No, I was going to say, because there's just functions like dummy clips in Ableton Live where you can achieve things like effects being automated without you having to actually automate them. You can physically play in the live the live musical idea and have that loop and record actually live. And I don't know if you tuned in to last week's TAETRO Talks with Rachel K. Collar. I don't know if you've seen any of her work. She's
from.
She's also from
Wales.
Oh yeah. I thought from Wales, but I don't know the area, of course, so I'm not sure the nuances of it. But she has a video out with Ableton where she fully breaks down her looping setup. And even though you're not an Ableton Live user, if you're on the fence, whatever. First of all, there's a free trial, so you could just try it at no cost, 30 days unrestricted. Just watch her method. It's so intuitive how everything works and how she's able to loop things. I mean, looping audio, percussion, and shakers, to having a bunch of MIDI controllers, to having synthesizers, and having actual complex live sets. I just don't think that there's anybody at this moment that can compete with Ableton Live in terms of being able to do live looping performances. And I don't want you to go through. You could do one of two things. You can go through a ton of effort and, strenuous pain trying to get Cubase to do something it's not meant to do. Or you can go through a bunch of, strenuous effort to learn a new DAW that's actually built to do what you want to do. That's the two paths I see for you here. Either one of them is going to take a lot of work. I think one of them is going to be a little bit more frustrating, because with the Cubase, you're trying to fit like a square peg into a circle hole. But then with Ableton Live, at least you'll get to a point where, yes, you had to learn something new and put the time in, but You're not starting at ground zero. You're not starting at zero because you already have some DAW knowledge and musical knowledge. So it's really just learning the interface. And there's so much out there, so many resources for looping with live and doing exactly the kind of set that you described. So I really think like I have had this too, where I'm at a point where I don't want to attempt something new. And I try so hard to do something the way I know how to do it, which is not really the best way to do it. And it causes more frustration and is the same amount of work. Whereas if I had just learned something new, where it would be the same amount of work, but far less frustration. And I think that's just true for so many things in music technology and learning the different aspects. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give. I know it's a big step to try to switch and maybe not the like fix or answer you might be looking for, but I truly believe that that's the way to go.
Absolutely, man. I think what you're saying makes real sense now, especially with a free version. I mean, as long as I can take, I basically just use Native Instruments Complete and Omnisphere, which is amazing. If you've seen some of the stuff Omnisphere's got in it, but
totally.
I mean, those will patch straight into Ableton, I imagine.
Absolutely, they open them up right as a plugin, right onto a MIDI track.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, lovely, man. Yeah, I will. I think I will, and I'll get back to you in a month or so, and
for sure
give you an update, man.
Dive in.
You know, part of it as well is trying to keep everything as simple and straightforward as possible. To also try and concentrate more on the performance and crowd interaction side of it, because when you just sit, when you're watching a band, you've got audio, visual and audio stimulation. You've got people actually actively vibrantly playing their instruments.
Yeah.
When you just sitting there in front of a little MIDI keyboard, it's like, people, every time I've done it, man, and I've only just literally just started getting into it, but a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that was great performance. But you can see some people are just they're barely paying attention.
Of course, it's just a different visual thing. It doesn't quite.
There's not much going on, kind of thing. But then, so Mark Rabile has obviously cracked that completely, hasn't he? Because he's, but then that's part of his unmatchable charisma and just animal,
his boisterous, just full on performance thing. Yeah. And it is I really think if you look into an Ableton setup, being able to just have, a couple MIDI devices that are all, armed, but for different sounds and being able to reach around different gear and things like that. I mean, people I think are super into that stuff. It's also a question of who knows when we're able to even have some of these performances again, So you might have a lot of rehearsal time or time to try something new. Now might be the perfect time,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, make the most of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for that advice, man. I think I will get on that ASAP, and I'll keep checking in, and perhaps I'll pop you a message soon, man. And
for sure. We'll see. Yeah, please do. Please let me know how it goes, especially if I can point you towards any video resources that could help a lot. I think, but there's a ton out there. You'll be able to find it for sure.
Yeah, defo. Oh, well, thanks again, man. And we'll chat again soon. And thanks for all the stuff you do for the community.
Thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it.
Take care, man.
Have a good one. Yeah, folks, that's a really important point. Even if you're not into looping or into any of the stuff that we just talked about, we have this tendency to do what we know is familiar. And, that works sometimes. Sometimes we become familiar with something and it helps improve our workflow. It helps us do things faster. But then other times it holds us back from progress. If we really want to progress, we really need to, try something a little bit out of our comfort zone and learn a new skill, learn a new way of doing things. Because if we keep trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, which I've tried to do many a times, how can I force this to work the way I know how to do it? It causes frustration and it causes hours of troubleshooting and figuring things out. Meanwhile, I could put the same few hours of troubleshooting and figuring things out into learning something new and actually building a new skill that's going to help me progress rather than stay where I currently am. You can apply that to a bunch of different areas of music production and music in general. Let's keep going on with the calls because I know I'm falling behind. I'm taking long calls today, but they're actually really good calls and I appreciate it. I see people all in the text chat. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for hanging. I know I haven't been able to take that many text questions. Omen, are you on the line? Oh, we can hear Omen, but I don't know if Omen can hear us.
Hello?
Hey, make sure you mute the stream because it'll be a little bit delayed.
Yeah, I'm on the line, but
Oh.
I'm hearing audio through.
Yep, just make sure you go on YouTube and
Okay.
mute the stream, and you'll be good to go.
Okay. Can
There
you
we
hear me
go.
better?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Sorry, it took me a second to figure that out.
That's okay. Welcome to the show. Where are you calling in from?
Texas, actually.
Wow. How are
from
things going
Fort
there?
Worth.
Oh, wow.
It's all right. You can't complain too much.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I guess I have a couple questions, and I'll try not to take up too much of your time. But first, so I'm fairly new to making music and stuff. You could say that I'm an aspiring content creator. I haven't really
Awesome.
put anything out yet. But
Exciting.
I want to. Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. I've learned a lot of interesting stuff about sound and video, and it's been a pretty interesting little journey trying to learn all this stuff. But I guess so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do everything from scratch pretty much. So like for music that I have in the background of anything I want to do, I want to make myself. I want to do anything that's on my channel. I don't want to run into I want to minimize any probability of having like copyright strikes and those kinds of things that
Of course.
YouTube tends to deal with and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of why I'm trying to learn this stuff. But I have a small amount of experience working with music, and I play a very small amount of guitar, and just little things that I've done in the past. But I'm fairly new to actually working with DAWs and trying to actually make beats. I just got a Novation Launch Key 25, not the mini, but the full 25.
Great.
So I guess, my question is, as a music creator for you, how, and I know you kind of touched on this in a lot of your other videos too, but how do you go about deciding where to start when like you're going throughout your process of making a beat?
Yeah. So in just the pure creation, from creating a new piece of music, starting point, limitations. I talk about this all the time. Limitations help a lot. So I'm in the position where I get to make a lot of cool content with different sound packs and one sound pack, like a piece of content with a single sound pack. And that limitation alone helps get me set off on a certain path, because I can't choose among the unlimited amounts of plugins and the unlimited amounts of what should I say? Unlimited amounts of sounds and samples, etc. So a limitation, no matter how you start, whether like a genre could be a limitation. Let's say you're going to, you really want to make a synth pop track, or you want to make a rock track. Well, those genres in and of themselves provide some type of limitation because they imply some type of instrumentation or whatever. So I would, if you're really having trouble starting, I would very much find some type of limitation to impose on yourself. And of course you can break it. You're imposing it on yourself. Nobody's, holding a gun to your head or anything. And then from there, okay, so that limits my choices of sounds or the style or direction or the tempo that I'm going. And then it really becomes, what are you most comfortable with? What are you most inclined to do? So if you are a guitar player, I'm not sure if you're a lead or a rhythm guitar player, or if you have some experience with both. Let's say you're a rhythm guitar player, you might want to start with chords because that's what you're most naturally into. Or maybe you want to start with a lead melody. Maybe that's what you're hearing in your head. It's all about doing what's most comfortable first. And then you can start to imagine, like you let your imagination in your head kind of run wild and sort of let your imagination go the direction that, your instincts take you. We talked about that earlier before. There's no right or wrong way. If you keep a workflow, and it becomes kind of like a flow state almost, a workflow where you're just kind of bouncing between your instincts and you're not being too judgmental about what you're coming up with, you're going to have a lot more fun, and you're going to, at the end, be a lot happier with what you came up with because you weren't You weren't strenuously, tweaking sounds to the point where it doesn't actually matter. And now you're an hour in and you've only got, a synth and a drum groove.
Right.
You don't want to be at that point because that's going to be super discouraging. You want to get things out as fast as possible. And it's not about a race. It's not about like rushing to do things. It's about doing things based on instinct and kind of trusting yourself. Now, as you go through your musical journey and you build your skills, you'll be able to, act on your instincts a lot faster. Your instincts will get a lot better because you'll get, more skills, of course. So that's only something that can build over time. Another huge thing that I want to just point out, because I have this book right here that I believe somebody will have to check me on this. It's a book by Ableton. Oh my God, it's like stuck in this shelf. It's a book by an author, a guy who works at Ableton called Dennis DeSantis, and it's called 74 Creative Strategies for Electronic Music Producers. Now, I believe when the pandemic hit, they released a digital version of this book for free. So you should definitely look that up. Making music. Yeah, Making Music, Ableton Live, Dennis DeSantis. Look up this book. And the reason I bring it up is because the way the book is formatted, this isn't a book that you read from start to finish. It's not like a novel or a manual or anything. It's really just a book you can reference. And the way it's divided is the chapter 1 is problems of beginning. And it basically lists out all these different issues that you might have with starting, right? Like let me find one for an example. Okay, problem. This is one of the problems. Active listening. Although you listen to a lot of music, you don't really have a sense that you're learning from what you listen to. You know what you like, but you don't really understand why you like it or how to extract compositional or technical ideas from what you hear so that you can reuse them in your own music. And then basically this whole next set of pages is all about how to be a better active listener. But then there's super like tactical stuff too. I mean, there's screenshots of Ableton Live in here. The next chapter, so it goes problems of beginning, problems of progressing, and then of course problems of finishing. It's just a really great reference. Like if I can show this on screen really quick, like literal screenshots out of Ableton Live in there. And then also the more esoteric stuff like I just talked about with the active listening. But really, really great resource. I believe that the digital version is still out there for free. Somebody can check me on that. If not, it's definitely worth it. And somebody asked again, the name of the book is Making Music, 74 Creative Strategies for Electronic Music Producers. It's by Dennis DeSantis. If anybody can find that, Regina says digital version is $9.99 on Amazon, but just do a quick Google search and see if Ableton has it free somewhere. But that is something, work on your skills, work on being in your instincts and your workflow so that you're not judging yourself too much and you can just come up with ideas quickly and go with your inclinations, starting with the layer that you feel most inclined to start with today. For me, it's chords sometimes, drums other times, a lead melody other times, there's no right way. Once you break that mindset of like, there's a right way, quote unquote, to do things. You forget about that. You realize the right way is the way you feel in that moment. What's going to get you working, what's going to get you having fun and creative faster. That's the right way. Sooner you can understand that, sooner you start making stuff faster. And that'll go for like anything that you do. I know you talked about being a content creator with video. Some days you might feel like sitting down to make a video. Some days maybe you feel like sitting down just to record some voiceover or just shooting some B-roll or just shooting some talking head. Break up your creative process in whatever you feel most naturally inclined to do in that moment.
For sure. So that actually helps out a lot as far as, because I think the part that helps the most is you were saying, understanding why you like it, and not just that you like it.
For sure.
That actually kind of struck something with me, but I guess, so that helps with that. So I have two other questions. One of them short. The other one is a little bit more towards like your YouTube stuff.
Let's do it.
For you.
Totally.
Okay. So the first question, this will be the shorter question, is for what do you consider to be like the basic building blocks of a beat, for like a beat to be completely finished for you?
It's hard to say like completely finished, because it's different for everyone. Right. But I say basic beats. Like I talk about this all the time, but I come from, when I was a kid playing in like rock, like indie rock bands and, you know, singer-songwriter world. And it's very easy to break up music into that format of you have your rhythm guitar, your lead guitar, your bass guitar, your singer, and your drummer. Those are just 5 very basic layers that, you know, in beat making that gets blown up into some different, different elements. And different elements, multiple elements can combine to make single elements of what I just outlined. But what you have there is you have your lead, like a little melody or a riff that kind of floats along with the chords, which is, you know, the harmonic bed, the bass line, your rock bottom, which follows the chords, your drums, which kind of works with the bass to create your groove, and your singer, the thing that everybody's listening to, the main thing that everybody's listening to, and everything around that is the set. If you expand that out to a beat, you know, you come up with an instrument for chords, you come up with a nice riff that's not quite a melody, but is playing something melodic. You come up with a bass line to follow those chords, a drum groove, and then you have your lead melody. What is the listener supposed to be listening to at that moment? If you follow that basic pattern and you figure out if you have all those places or all those, jobs filled out within your beat, then you're in a pretty good place. Of course, we have so many options. Like with Ableton Live, I can add like thousands of tracks, right? And I can keep stacking. So it's up to you to be disciplined enough to properly compose and arrange your track so that it doesn't get too cluttered, but that everything's working in conjunction, everything's working together, and everything has its own place. You don't bring band members on stage for no reason. Like you don't need, you got your drummer, you might not need the tambourine player, you know? You don't need a specific person to come on stage to play tambourine. But you have to be you have to manage it that way when you're creating your beats, like by turning certain layers off. Like if I turn this layer off, do I even care? Does anybody notice? Or do my ears feel relieved when I turn that layer off? You know what I mean? Like being subtractive that way.
Okay, that makes sense for sure. Okay, so then the other question that I had is, so for you, what have been some of the most like effective tools for you actually expanding yourself on this platform?
That's a pretty easy answer. Like, and when we talk about expanding, I assume we mean like growing an audience, that sort of thing.
Right. Well, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So, and that's super important for anybody who's trying to do anything creative, is growing an audience, getting eyes on your work in a time where content creation tools, you know, everybody's got a phone in their pocket. So there's lots of competition. How do you stand out? Well, you can stand out by really, really providing something that people need and just putting it out there. So when I think about how I started this channel, I started it with a video about launch key performance techniques. And it was at a time where there wasn't a ton of tutorial content out there. And I decided to finally show off what I knew, because I was getting a lot of questions. I had performance videos, which are one thing. That was like my art, like, oh, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to put out my music. And eventually when that was not gaining me enough traction, because I don't think it's enough to just make art in 2020, I think you also have to provide some type of value beyond the entertainment value, which is educational, which is what it was for me. Sharing what I know, but then also being appreciative of the beginner and knowing, because understanding that that's kind of who my audience is. I have a lot of beginners in my audience. Not to say that, intermediate and advanced folks can't learn some stuff from my videos, but a lot of beginners in my audience. And when I was a beginner, and even when I went to college, I always found that like professors and really, bad teachers taught from a perspective that you already knew something, right? So if you assume that your students or your viewers on YouTube already know something and you just gloss over some very basic aspects that might seem basic but are very foundational, you alienate a lot of your audience. So a main steady way I try to present this channel is that I try to break things down from square one, no matter what. At whatever point, at whatever kind of tutorial it is, I try to break things down from square one so that you could watch that tutorial and take something from it no matter what level you are. Even if you're a beginner, I don't want to feel like you jump into one of my videos and things go way over your head. Now, that's one aspect. The other aspect is like really figuring out, Like, okay, like if I do content with an Akai MPK Mini, like people have come to my channel and subscribed from a lot of videos that have to do with this controller, which means every time I do a video with one of these controllers, they're likely to show back up. So it's understanding that, having that balance. But do you think I want to make a video with the Akai MPK Mini every single day when I have all these beautiful controllers around?
Right.
No, I don't. So it's a balance, and it's growing an audience for all the other gear too, like helping people understand like controllerism in general. And also doing stuff not just for the audience, but for me. So you'll see some videos on my channel that have 10,000 views, 50,000, 100,000. That's great. That's all well and good. You'll see some videos on my channel that have 1,000 views, 2,000 views. And if I'm doing those videos for me, because I feel artistically, fulfilled by doing those videos, then that's okay. And that is the only way that this channel, that I've been able to maintain this channel. It hasn't been the easiest, but like over the course of like 4 years growing the channel, I've had to find a happy medium in between making content for me and then that I'm proud of, and that no matter how many people look at it, I can look at it and be super stoked and proud of it. And then content that can serve a wider purpose and serve a much broader audience. And I'm still passionate about doing that. I'm also passionate about other things. So I have to find a happy medium in between those to maintain the audience and to continue to grow the audience, which allows me to do what I want to do.
Right. Okay. I think that pretty much answers my questions.
Amazing.
For now, at least.
Yeah, hopefully you can check in. So if you start making videos or if you start making music or whatever, you keep showing up to the channel and letting us know so we can support and, follow you along your journey.
For sure. Yeah. And thank you for everything you do. I mean, I've been watching your videos for a while now, and, I appreciate what you're doing. There's not a lot of people on YouTube that are doing things that are as, I guess, doing what you do as clear cut as you do it.
I appreciate that. I try. So, but thank you so much for saying that. So I'm going to keep the content coming for sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
We're going deep today in the calls, my friends. It feels good. I'm super glad. Like, when this pandemic hit and everything and everybody started working from home, we kind of all got stuck here. Simon the Magpie, you're too kind. Thank you so much. Exclusively for a substance of your choice. We all know my substance of choice is caffeine. So I really appreciate that, Simon. Y'all should go check out Simon's channel, Simon the Magpie. Really, one of the funniest dudes for sure that I've probably ever met. Rev Sabes, thank you so much as well for the super chat. Thank you so much. It's obviously not required by any means. And I know folks are going through different times. So thanks for the support. If you can't hang in and stay, thanks Rev Sabes if you got to jump off. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a long stream. We're going to go for a little bit more. Lines are closed. We're going to take the 3 last calls now. We're going to bring in Samuel Messiah, one of our returning callers. And, thank you all so much for hanging. You guys have a lot of good ideas in the chat. I'm sorry I haven't been able to keep up with this text chat while taking calls. It's kind of tough. But welcome to the stream. I hope you all are enjoying TAETRO Talks tonight. Samuel, what's up? We're talking twice this week.
Hey, TAETRO.
What's up? You got a lot of questions. That's a good thing. Always curious.
I mean, I learn every day. Still learning Ableton, still learning the workflow.
And it'll never change. You'll always still be learning. And if you do keep that mentality, I'm learning every day. I think all of us can learn from that, and B, like, you'll still be happy because you won't have expectation of yourself. You won't have this unattainable expectation that you've made it somewhere. You're always learning, you're always growing, you're always progressing. That's the mindset we all need to be in. So thank you for inspiring.
Well, thank you.
What's your question today?
So, do you have the option to screen mirror or your screen? Because I want to know how to use several samples, like map them to keys on the keyboard. I didn't find videos about it online.
Multiple videos? Multiple samples?
Yeah, is that possible?
It for sure is. If you use Drum Rack, you can use Drum Rack that way. Do you know how to use Drum Rack in Ableton Live?
Yeah.
So if you set up a drum
But,
rack, go ahead.
Like on the keyboard. Wait, I thought drum rack was only for pads.
Ah, that's where you're mistaken. So the pads are just sending note data. So like most of the time, this first pad on whatever controller you have, even if it's a launch key, this is just C0. That's a note. Like if I hit the octave down a couple times and play this will be C0. But when you're looking at drum rack, you've got that long grid on the side where you drop the samples, but you can go all the way up the keyboard. So you can put samples on C1, C, D, E, F, G. You can do it like that. If you want to play a single sample as an instrument, you put it into Simpler, which is something I do on my beat making streams all the time. You can watch one of those. But if you want to put multiple samples on a keyboard, you can use drum rack. Drum rack is not only for pads. You can trigger the drum rack with your keys as well.
Interesting.
You can
very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. I mean, like everybody's got to learn this stuff sometimes, and you have a launch key, right? Am I mistaken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a launch key.
Yep. You just load samples into your drum rack. You've got lots of empty slots, but you can drop a bunch of samples in there, and you'll be good to go.
Well, thank you for the info. Didn't know that before.
I'm happy I could help. Was that your only question today?
And I just had something to tell you, like, so basically when you were talking to someone else on an earlier call, you were like, you shouldn't refrain from using other artists like chord progressions and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's not so much that you shouldn't. It's not that you shouldn't refrain from taking somebody else's chord progressions. It's like if you ever heard some songs on the radio that you thought sounded the same, it's probably because they had the same chord progression. Maybe they're in different keys. Maybe they're even in the same keys. Now, I don't want you to go copy a bunch of stuff from somebody's music and call it your own. But if you want to take the chord progression from your favorite song and then the melody from this other, and then, a melody sound from this other song you heard, and then a drum groove from a different song you heard, if you take all those different ingredients from different places, what you have is a new track.
But each time I find a chord progression or play one just randomly, I have to link it to a song I listened to recently. Like it's an instinctual thing.
Yeah, you will do that because you're not going to come up with a new chord progression. No matter what, you're not going to come up with a chord progression that nobody's played before. I'm not going to. Nobody in this chat is going to. Your favorite musician out there is not going to come up with a chord progression that's brand new. So no matter what chord progression you play, you'll probably have heard it somewhere before, or somebody will have heard it somewhere before. Now, as you build up your musical vocabulary, there's obviously the basic chord progressions that are built around triads, the most basic versions of chords. But then as you build up your musical vocabulary and you learn more of the language, you'll learn about extensions, you learn about key changes, you learn about, bitonality, different things like that can make your chord progressions more, how should I say, more advanced, I guess. And it's like any language that you learn. I took like some Spanish classes in high school and college, but I would probably sound very dumb if I tried to speak Spanish because my vocabulary is not that good and I don't know how to put the words together that well. When we just start music, our music vocabulary is like you just learned language for a couple years. You don't sound as amazing as you could once you kind of immerse yourself in it and become fluent. So the more you become fluent, the more vocabulary you have to make music that kind of sounds a little bit more unique and has a little bit more to pull from. If you can say things in a bunch of different ways using a much more vibrant vocabulary, it sounds a lot more original than if you just learn the very basic version of a language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Will I be hearing from you again on Monday?
Yeah, probably.
Good to know. All right. I hope you have a great weekend and you're able to make some awesome stuff.
You too.
Stay safe, my friend.
Bye.
Bye. 2 more calls for us in the chat. Let's grab them. If you haven't yet, folks, I know a lot of you are tuning in. I've been tuning in from the beginning, but if you haven't yet, head to 343labs.com and check out some of the courses we got. Because a lot of the questions folks have, whether it's about music theory or sound design or synthesis, etc., whatever it may be, we probably have a course for it. Your favorite DAW, either Logic or Ableton, mixing and mastering. If you really want to dive into a deep course with some expert instructors, it's a really great resource that you should at least check out. There's payment plans, there's different, programs running with different instructors. Just check it out, 343labs.com, especially if we're all going to be at home for a while anyway. I'm trying to bring in the range control. Oh, I don't like the way this looks. We're going to get that out of here. I'm going to bring in somebody else. Roosevelt Hackington. Roosevelt, am I saying that right? Roseville.
No, oh, sorry. This is Cozen Unmarked Vans.
Say that again.
This is John Cozen Unmarked Vans.
Oh yeah, hey, what's up? Welcome.
Hey, what's up, TAETRO? So awesome to be on stream with you. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the stream. I see your mandolin in the background.
Yes, you can see me.
I can see you, but you can only see me on the stream. But
okay, cool.
Where are you calling
Feel
in
free to
from?
Put me up on stream if you want. I'm Roseville. Yeah, so it looks like I have my old works like handle up there.
Oh yeah.
I've been I've produced a couple songs. I've released 3 songs in the past few years. I did the Andrew Wong's course on music production on Monthly, and it was pretty cool, and it helped me, I've always done music. Helped me kind of produce a few songs with
That's
my
great.
kid. And he's only like 7 years old.
Oh, nice.
So I've decided to go ahead and release new music under the name Unmarked Bands. And I got, after last week, after you did your Ableton
Nice. SL?
Yeah, I got the 37.
Oh, the 37.
After,
Nice.
I seriously had it in here like the next day. That video was so great. I was like, oh my gosh, that keyboard looks so awesome and lightweight. So that's been great, and I'm going to release new music under Unmarked Vans. So my question for you, my mentor, is: you have different scales and different modes that you stick to, A, B, C, D, major, minor, Dorian, Mixolydian, all that. So what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I'm going to be super transparent that I don't really think about it that much. And but I also have the benefit of being, having a lot of music theory background, like a fair amount of music theory background, and a good amount of keyboard skills. So I can play in all 12 keys very easily. So all that means for me is when I sit down, I think actually I lean on D minor a lot. I'm just looking at the keyboard to try to feel where my hands go naturally. Sometimes I'm literally just putting my hands on the keyboard and seeing what happens and seeing what comes out. And like I said, because I have that fluency and because I can play in all 12 keys, it just gives me the ability to lay my hands down and play out some chord progressions. And sometimes my hands are ahead of my brain where I'm figuring out what key am I playing in, especially if I start with a melody or something. I will just reverse engineer what my hands are doing. Oh, what key am I actually playing in? Oh, I'm in E flat or something. Cool. Let me just keep going with that. So I really don't, my approach is not okay, I'm going to play in this key today or this mode today. Right. Sometimes I will get bored for sure. I mean, I'm not doing anything crazy modally at all. Usually, but if I do get very bored of just the typical major minor, I will start to mix things up and start to play, some subdominants, things like that.
Okay, because your stuff sounds great, and I always
thanks.
What's he using? Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, very very basic. I have to say, my stuff is very very basic,
and I love the scale mode of the launch key and the Ableton Push.
For sure.
And I actually have other instruments, and I can play on them, and my push will light up if I'm doing the right keys in the scale. I'll just say hey, put this is going to be an A Mixolydian scale, and I can play on my Rolly, which I got because you recommended actually.
Yep.
And I'll play on that, and just I can tell if I'm in the right scale or not. So it's
For
been
sure.
actually really educational and super awesome. So I'm just having a lot of fun with this stuff. And I told you I released 3 songs under just a silly name, Me and Dad, with my son.
That's so great.
And now I'm going to do Unmarked Vans. I plan to have an EP out within the next month or two, because every day I make a beat. Like I wake up, I watch your videos, and then I make a beat.
That's amazing.
I'm inspired and I do my thing, and it's easy because I have a percussion background. I have a little bit of a music background, but all these tools make it easy, and your knowledge.
For sure.
So it's been a lot of fun. I just want to thank you for that. So
thank you so much for saying all that. I mean, I'm excited for you, because like you seem super excited. I'm stoked that you're able to have that bonding like with your kid, and like helping your kid also get into music and things like that. That's a really beautiful thing. And you're in this excitement mode. And as you put together your EP, don't forget like this feeling of excitement, because at some point it of course becomes work,
Right.
And if you can keep that ambition and that excitement and just remember why you're in it, like it'll mean when things get hard or things get to be kind of a pain, it'll make it worth it. Just remember how good it feels.
It's an art form, right?
Absolutely. Which means it's work, artwork,
Exactly.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, TAETRO.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Yes. Should we, I was going to bring in range control. I was going to try to bring in again. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but you can call in on another show. I was a little bit worried about your Zoom background because I could see it. It said some stuff I didn't quite understand. And then also the audio wasn't connecting, but I appreciate you trying to call in, and I appreciate all the callers today. We went really deep today, where we've been live for about an hour and 25 minutes, I think. And I think that this has been a really successful stream, and I can't thank you all enough for hanging out in the chat. Heroic, we're actually coming to a close today, so calls are going to be closed for now. Thank you all so much for calling in. We will do another calling show again soon. So TAETRO Talks on Thursdays, usually an interview show. We're going to start building up some more guests. If you have ideas for guests, tweet at me at Nick TAETRO and let me know who you'd like to see interviewed. And then we can also do future call-in shows, but I do a call-in show on my channel every Monday. So if you want to tune in every single Monday at about 10 a.m. PST, you can call in and we do a similar show every Monday. If you haven't yet and you're like yearning to learn something, whether it's mixing and mastering, music theory, how to use your DAW from beginner to advanced, synthesis, songwriting, composition, just check out 343labs.com and check out the courses that are all taught by expert instructors, beatport charting producers, famed touring musicians, people that really know what they're talking about. Like, I think, learning online is one thing. And of course I do YouTube tutorials and you can learn a lot that way. But if you are looking to take kind of a next step and get a deeper learning experience and get in with some small class sizes and a really personalized learning experience, 343 Labs is totally the way to go. I got a podcast. So if you really enjoy this show, you're going to enjoy the podcast. Check out TAETRO Radio on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Just type in TAETRO Radio. I've got full interviews on there. I've got some inspiring clips. So especially if you want to just listen to one to start your day, you can go back and check them all out. I'm posting new episodes multiple times a week. So check that out for sure. TAETRO Radio on all podcast platforms. And I think that's all I want to plug right now. New music coming out on Saturday. So make sure you're following me on Instagram, Twitter, all that. Subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell. And we're going to keep the content coming, folks. I've got a new single dropping on Spotify, Apple Music, all that on Saturday. So make sure you're following over there and it shows up in your release radar, etc., etc. You all are so great. I can't be thankful enough for having this great community. Let's do this one thing before we go too far. I haven't taken the plastic off the screen, so I'll give you like a little ASMR moment. I'll just peel this off. I don't even know if that made a noise. Maybe it did. But there you go. That's your little ASMR moment for today. Got lots of new gear and new videos coming. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You can go back and watch the stream as a rebroadcast. If you are watching this as a rebroadcast, please let me know and leave a comment down below because I would love to know. My dad said no because he leaves the plastic on his phone screens for the entire time he uses them. Again, all right, we got to close the show. Thank you all so much for tuning in for TAETRO Talks. Head to 343labs.com if you want to take a course. Patreon.com/TAETRO if you want to support the channel. Thank you for the super chats, Simon the Magpie and Rev Sabes. And follow me on Spotify, Instagram. Links are all in the description. Thank you so much. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.